What's up, y'all? As I teased last night, I'm going to do the video today to kind of show or recap the season, good and the bad. We're going to recap Martin first, talk about where we're going next year, what we're doing next year, tease some partnerships, some new ones, some continued ones, and also kind of a new business plan that myself and a couple other opens guys, as well as a couple guys, are going to do. So let's recap number one on Martin. I went dark after Martin, I'm not going to lie. I didn't really talk about it a lot, didn't want to talk about it. I'm a bad loser. And fact is, I lost. It's nobody else's fault but mine. All year long, the reason you notice I had a lot of top tens, but also had some so-so finishes. That's because I always swung for the fence. It was, you had to have five. Yes, you couldn't leave fish off the table, so to speak. You had to go in with five, but I also always had the ability to swing for the fence a little bit. And at Martin, I didn't do that. I had more experience than anybody else in the field besides maybe two or three other anglers. I knew what to expect. I knew what I needed to do, and I went against that. I kind of went out with the mentality of I'm going to make somebody else beat me instead of me beating everybody else. It's easy to look at that now and realize what I did wrong. I decided I was going to throw shaky head in brush piles and try to make everybody else have to catch that 10 and a half a day to beat me. And by doing so, plan not to lose. So that's exactly what I did. I lost. So, lesson learned, hard lesson, difficult lesson. It was a very painful last day. But it's a lesson that I'll carry with me and not make that same mistake again going forward. So, recapping the year. Number one, it was overall, looking back on it, it was a good year. 4 top tens. That ties a record. That was not something I saw coming. We had a top 10 at Okeechobee, started the season off the right way. That first 30 minutes, we had 23 pounds in 30 minutes, ended up with 27 on day one. Santee Cooper, we had a top 10. We had a top 10 at Eufaula, and we had a top 10 at La Crosse. You can kind of look at the way I fished on all 4 of those and see that the strength was definitely shallow grass and shallow cover. It doesn't mean that, I didn't catch them when it was deeper, but definitely those 4 set up to my strength, and I was able to capitalize on those events. So the bad was we had a lot of opportunities left on the table. Ouachita on day one, I broke off a 7-pounder. I'm just kind of going back through, of course, you remember. You definitely remember the ones you lost more so than the ones you caught. Ouachita had a really bad first day. I broke off a 7, saw the fish right underneath the boat, had me wrapped around some timber and just couldn't get to her. She was at least 7. She was really big. And then the one that really hurt was Logan Martin, which, everybody considers my home lake because it's close. I would consider Guntersville and Neely more of my 2 home lakes, but Logan Martin's a lake that I've spent a lot of time on. And unfortunately on day 2, I broke one off and I lost 3 over 3 pounds. One was over 4. And that ultimately cost me a great deal in that event and over the course of the year. Then we go to the next St. Clair. I had my electronics redone and a new mount was put on the center console of my boat. And it was very rough that week. It was the 4th of July weekend. And with that weekend, there was a lot of wake. I hit a lot of wake all week long, and unfortunately, the second day I hit some boat wake, and it wasn't really that rough, but I guess it was just the damage that had been done throughout the week. The entire mount and both of my graphs come flying off that console and into my lap on takeoff, thus eliminating pretty much all electronics except for a little bit of mapping on my hummingbirds. I was able to salvage 17 pounds that day by fan casting a drop shot around the waypoints I had, but definitely not what I would have or could have caught if I would have had my forward unit. And that's just part of it. I was proud that I was able to overcome that and not bury my season, but also disappointed in the fact that I felt like, 19 and a half to 20 pounds, which was not a good bag for that tournament, but I felt like that was my floor, even on day 2. So, and then day 1 of Leech. Day 1 of Leech was one that I probably learned the most from. When you fish against guys in the opens and you see their rotation and you see how they do things, it's amazing how good some of these fishermen are. Unfortunately for that event, I didn't know it until day 2 what had really happened. Day 1, I stopped and I caught a 4 3/4 and a 3 1/2 real quick. Well, upon that, I started running other stuff, shallow boulders, and the fish that were there were very, very finicky, and they seemed to be a lot less fish than what was there in practice. And I couldn't figure out what had happened. I should have went and caught largemouth. I didn't. I bought into the smallmouth thing the whole time, kept trying to run those, thinking they'd come back, and I caught 2 fish. The day got away from me. Had a really, really bad first day. I was around the right fish. Probably should have done a better job in practice of a backup plan on largemouth, because if I fill out my limit in that event there, I definitely would have had a real good finish there. But day 2, was able to salvage that, caught almost 20 pounds. Figured out on day 2 after watching the group of guys follow Easton around, Easton Fothergill, who won that event. He was fishing a lot of the same stuff I found in practice. And I watched, I kind of jumped ahead several spots and watched him run to 4 spots I had waypointed that I had also been wanting to run. So I think I got in a really bad rotation, and that's part of it. That's something I'll have to learn from going forward. But it also helped me salvage day 2. I was able to kind of go out on a big, what I thought would be a community area, and there wasn't many boats out there, but kind of pick apart the bigger boulders in the course of all the rocks, and was able to call out 3 times in the last hour to have a really good bag on day 2. So that being said, unfortunately we finished 10th on the year. Doesn't mean it was a bad year, but it's not a good year. That's not what my intentions going in. Obviously, were to see where I stood and how I could compete, and realize real quickly I can compete at that level. But then you change your goals change as time goes, and my goal became to make the elite series, and I fell short of that. So learning from the opens in year 1 is going to help me going forward in everything I decide to fish. I took some time away and really didn't know what I wanted to fish next year. I'll be honest, I don't think the fishing industry is in a very good place anywhere. I don't think MLF's very good right now. NPFL is not an option for me. I'm not going to get into it. I've got some guys that fish NPFL. I think their intentions are good, but I think their execution and some of the treatment of anglers is not. So that's not an option for me. I will say that I loved every minute of fishing bass. I really like the guys there. I think that they're top notch. I was kind of spoiled coming from ABT, and the job that Kay Donaldson and her crew does is 100% the best trail that is ran in America that I fished, and bass is the closest thing to that. I felt like bass treated anglers extremely well. I felt like they do a good job of giving us a platform. So that is where I was leaning to begin with. But then we have the change, and we go to 4 that are kind of a western side of things, which is Division 2, and I would call the other 4 on Division 1 and eastern side of things. I don't really like the change, but I've got to make a decision on what I want to do. So I thought about it, kind of waited until the last second. I have decided that I will be fishing Division 1 of the Bassmaster Opens again next year, which is Clarks Hill. Then we go to Tom Bigby, and then Upper Chesapeake and St. Lawrence. I made that decision because not that those fisheries set up great for me, but Clarks Hill and Tom Bigby are not far from the house. That's not a lot of travel, and then the northern events are back-to-back events for me. The good thing is, while I don't feel like they set up well, I only have to be in the top 50 to advance the last 3 for the EQs. So, not saying that's going to be easy. I don't know how many anglers they're taking, and being in the top 50 against those guys could be very difficult. So that's where we're at. I did look very carefully at the invitationals. I felt like that schedule was the best schedule for me personally. But looking at it, my long-term goal is to get to the highest level, and I don't have the aspirations of fishing the BPT like I would fishing the Elite Series and wanting to have the opportunity to fish the Bassmaster Classic. So the decision's been made. It'll be Division 1. I am also going to fish the ABT 100. I absolutely love the ABT. I don't have the time to fish all of them like I used to. I will be fishing ABT 100 Jason Whitehead this year, as well as a Bass Nation on Pickwick to try to qualify for that national championship. And we'll probably cherry pick everything else between Coosa River and a couple other events. So that's going to be the focus right now. Everything else has kind of been lining up partnerships. I will say this industry is very difficult with that right now. It's not just me. It's a lot of professional guys, even at the highest level, that are struggling with that. I am very blessed to be continuing some partnerships, to be adding some new ones, which I will be announcing. I'll announce probably one later today and a couple each day. I do have a handful already done. I am looking to add some more that I'm trying to finalize contracts, waiting to hear back what the best option is for me between a couple of different companies. So that will all kind of play itself out as we go. But that's where we're at right now. It is Bassmaster Opens Division 1 for 2025. I hate it because a lot of my guys, a lot of my buddies are going to be fishing Division 2. But, you know, hopefully that all comes together and we all make the EQs at the end of the year. But for me, for travel, for the ability to pre-fish more outside of the off-limits window, for travel, for business purposes, you know, I spent a lot of time. Guys, 9 tournaments that they had, the 9 events that they did the last couple of years truly put the best anglers into Elite Series. There was no way to fake your way through that. There was no way to luck your way through that. There was no way to be a fraud and go to the Elite Series with 9 events. But that being said, the sacrifice you had to make, for me personally, time away from multiple businesses, time away from spending time at home with, as you can see, you know, she's a little needy, you know, from my daughter and the dog and, you know, everything else I have going on was difficult. And that was something that was going to be a difficult choice this next year too. Although I'm not huge on dog hair, number 1, but number 2 on the new format, it does work out better for me personally for travel and everything else involved. And I think there'll be a lot of people that feel that way. But that's where we're at for now. I will be doing a lot of content coming up. We're going to get through Thanksgiving and you'll start seeing a lot of videos and a lot of content. We're going to start doing some individual fishing lessons, which will be myself and some other guys on the open, some guides, some guys that work under me at MMA. We're going to kind of try to bring a more hands-on approach to the development for not just the youth, but anybody getting into tournament fishing. I feel like right now, you know, everybody knows I guide on Guntersville, but guiding is one thing. You're telling a guy to throw out and catch fish. We're going to do some stuff that is going to allow people the knowledge of why we're doing it, very much a more individualized plan of helping them become a better angler. I'm hoping to work with some of the younger kids in the high school realm and kind of teach them better morals on the lake because, you know, being at Guntersville, you can imagine what I see on a daily basis of what is not taught to our youth. So we're going to try to implement all that while incorporating a business plan that is productive not only for my guides and myself, but also for the angler as well. So we'll be announcing that coming up, so kind of stay tuned and look out for that. But I appreciate all the support in 2024. It was amazing how many people reached out. It's amazing the following that's been created from this, and that is a big thank you to Bass. That is not me. Only thing I did is go out and catch a greenfish. They provided that platform, but even a brownfish every once in a while, but mostly green. But I just want to say thank you to everybody. I appreciate all the support, and I look forward to building this even more in 2025.